All right. Good afternoon to those of you on the East Coast. Good morning to those of you on the West Coast. I'm your host, Brandon Troy, co-creator of Movers and Shakers Unlimited. Thanks so much for joining us wherever you're watching from. As you well know, every week we try to bring you up to speed in the world of pop culture of what happened in the last week with our weekly podcast known as This Week in Pop Culture, trying to bring you up to speed so that way you are not left in the wind. And of course, I'm not going to be alone in talking about these said topics as I am every week. So without further ado, I want to welcome my co-host, my partner in crime, Mr. Spillman Trueheart, aka Spills. What's going on, sir?
Ladies and gentlemen,
What's
boys and
up, man?
girls, we might have a all podcast first round where may the best man win.
Indeed, indeed,
Indeed.
indeed. So happy Sunday, Spills. And we want to have a bit of a lighter show this week. We didn't have a whole bunch happen in terms of like across the board of things that happened this week. But those said things that we will be talking about for this week's show, are, quite substantial. So, of course, we if you can look in the background, we do have some of our main topic stories that deal with our sports cooler segment, but we did have something pretty awesome happening in the world of film, which we will dive into. So, without further ado, Spill, shall we dive in?
Let's get it.
Okay, all right. So I'm gonna bring this up now. And this happened over this said week again. Starting off with our film and TV talk segment just a few days ago, this past Thursday, more specifically, the Board of Governors of the Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences announced the creation of an annual competitive Academy Award for Achievement in Stunt Design. That's right. So, beginning with the 100th Academy Awards, meaning for those films released in 2027, stunt professionals will be able to earn Oscars for their work. According to the announcement's category rules for eligibility and voting for the inaugural award will be announced in 2027 with the complete 100th Academy Award rules. The specifics of the awards presentation will be determined by the Academy's Board of Governors and executive leadership at a future date. So normally, folks, just about around at this time, normally what will happen is, I'll punt it over to Spills and say, what what were your thoughts on this said story? But we're gonna mix it up this go around because we are, very fortunate to have a terrific guest on tap for you guys who will be able to provide their insight, seeing that they are it is the said discipline that they provide to the medium of film. So without further ado, let me give an introduction to today's guest host. um, as I mentioned before, they have provided their talents in the world of stunts, having earned their experience as a member of the Jackie Chan or JC stunt team. He has provided his talents as an action director, a stunt coordinator, as well as a fight coordinator across numerous projects, which include Shanghai Noon, Rush Hour 2, The Scorpion King, AMC's Into the Badlands, Shang-Chi, among many more. It is my pleasure to welcome back to the show Mr. Andy Cheng. Let me bring him on now. Andy, hello. Good morning. Morning there on the West Coast. Hold on, I have you muted. Hold on. There you go.
Mhm.
How you doing?
I'm good. Good morning. How are you, Brandon? Thank you to have me here. That's
Absolutely, absolutely,
good. Yeah, that's
absolutely.
good.
So I'll start off first, Andy. Let me get you back up here. Is
Yeah.
just what are your initial impressions of this story of having finally having that discipline and that aspect of filmmaking being recognized by the Oscars, because I feel like it's long overdue.
Yeah. I mean, we've been waiting for a long time, and we've been trying a long time to get that happening. Um,
Oh, lost you there for a second. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
okay. Are you hear me?
Yes, yes, I can hear you.
It's
Go
still
ahead.
good. Yeah,
Yes,
so I mean, like we've been trying so long, as I want to mention, some stunt community, they are helping a lot. It's like very famous stunt coordinator, second unit director Jack Gill. He been trying like over whatever 30 years and trying to get this happening. So thank you, Jack. And then David Leitch. I mean, an amazing director. He did the movie called The Fall Guy with the second unit director Chris O'Hare. They both, did a big thing from last year. I think since the movie coming, and then they push very hard, and then they represent the stunt community and get this happening, now. So it's a great news, for the stunt community, for all the brother sister. They use their line and make the movie look good, right? And now I think
absolutely.
is it they really well deserved for this, so give them a really good applause. Yeah, so thank you them, and I think for me, I feel this is a good thing to happening now, a special um you know for as a stunt person, like me, I'm thinking, oh, Oscar, it's very far away, right? Even I'm become a member of you know Oscar um 2018. I'm already joining to the academy as a member, but they've been 18, 19, 20, right now 25th. We've been talking about this. Hopefully they're happening, hopefully they're happening, and then right a few days ago, right, announcing now happening, but not really like right away. Right, still like take 2 year, you know, to make it really like official. So,
For
but that's
sure.
just it's a good thing. It's like give us the time now. We have 2 years, so maybe everyone plan now. We can try to get the Oscar, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. So, you had mentioned that, and you had commented on it briefly. What has been the feeling among other your peers
Mhm.
also having, like, what has been the feeling, in discussing this new addition to the Oscars among your peers, and discussing among them, like, how are they feeling about it? Have you had a chance to discuss it with any of them, any contemporaries or peers of yours?
I just send them the message like thank you, congratulations to everyone. That's how what
Right.
I'm doing. And then even on Facebook, I put on that, and now it's about the time to go get your own run, right? Everyone should try. Um, so far, in the history, right? If I'm not wrong, it's only we only see a real stunt person, superstar Jackie Chan get one, right?
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's like I think it's really for a lot of stunt people, this is a really dream come true, because now we all can have something to chase, right?
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. And I'll open it up to Spillman here. Spills, did you have any questions for Andy, in terms of that said field?
How are you,
Yes,
Bill?
Um,
more, but
how's it going, Andy? Welcome to the podcast. Thank you for taking the time out with us. We
That's
really appreciate it.
thank you for having me here. It's so much fun.
Um, so I just wanted to know, of the historical stuntmen, who would you give an Oscar to for their work? What would be something that you were like, man, this guy really, or this woman really created a great opportunity and did a great stunts and changed the game.
You mean the honoring that, or you
Yes,
just
for sure,
just
honoring
pick?
them because obviously they just started this year. We've been
well,
making
we
movies
have 3 more
since.
years. It looks like it
Okay,
looks
three
like they're
more
not going to
years,
put it
but
until, yeah, three
we've
more
got like
years. Right.
100 years of movies that they were not recognizing stuntmen. Which stuntmen would you
There's
say were
so
your
many.
favorite?
No, they've been doing this so many years.
Hmm.
There's the two. It's a lot of people I can mention. Try to say it, but it's a long list. The people, but it's a two person. I think they've been doing so much for this. One is Conrad Parmasano, and then another one is Jack Gill. But Conrad's, unfortunately, he passed away a few years ago. But like I think, as I know, Jack Gill is the one, been, leading this whole thing and have a lot of meeting. And even last year, I think we have over 50, or I forget how many, it's a 50 or 70 stunt coordinator second unit. They all is a member of the academy, and then we have a big video chat to talk about what would be, who should be deserved for the Oscar by nomination. They have the limit, right? How many people can put on? Is this the second unit director, or is the stunt coordinator, or the
Hmm.
fight so we try to figure out when the category come out, like right now is a stunt design. So who will be the person should represent that? Is it the stunt double get it, or the stunt man get it? So we have a big, like I said, over, I forget it is 57 or 72
I was
people.
gonna say, to answer your question,
Mhm.
and based on the press release that they have here, they did add the extra added detail that apparently there are
Mhm.
100 stunt professionals that are members of the Academy's production and technology branch. So I don't know
Mhm.
if that's what you were
Yeah,
referencing.
that's where we are. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah. So
we belong that group. Yeah.
yeah, so actually, you actually want to hop into the next question I had for you, Andy, and that is,
Mm.
considering the fact that they said that they're still trying to iron out what the rules are going to be in terms of this particular category. What, as someone who has been seasoned, among your peers in the said field, what are some categories or criteria, rules, if you will, that you feel are pivotal in being able to determine or select certain nominees? Like, what would you like to see as criteria or as like rules for this particular for that category?
I think this is very hard to be like determined. That it depends on when the nomination. What is that
Hmm.
that movie at that moment? Is the stunt heavy about the car stunt, or about the fight, or about the wire work? So there are a lot of different category, and then the design or the coordinator. I think that's a because I haven't really like the detail, how many can be, right? So
Right, right, right,
they have like a maximum, maybe it was only three people can go into the stage or something. So I
right.
think that internal, when they anyone submission for the stunt, I think they internally they should have the own design. Maybe this is heavy, and the stunt performer, maybe the stunt double or the stunt people should get nomination, or maybe it's a second unit director, because this is a lot of in the maybe it's in the direction, or the coordinator, because there's a lot of safety. So I think that's,
Right.
if they have the limit for the number, which I'm not really sure what is the number, but they should, I think every submission before they go in is not like had to be a second unit, had to be stunt coordinator, or had to be a fight choreographer. I think that should be internally, when they submission, they should pick their own group of people to represent the movie.
Uh-huh.
I think that would be fair for the stunt people. As my opinion, yeah, because I think when they go to submission, they know, oh, this movie. Like if I'm saying, okay, the rundown, I know, oh, there's two stunt guy did an amazing job. I think they should be deserve that, and then maybe the second unit director, or sometime I think if we just really have a number, they should know who should go on that. Oh, but this is very heavy. It's a big, like Titanic, right? Is a lot of big safety. All the stuff. Maybe the stunt coordinator should be the first one to get that, right? And then picking second unit director, or the action design. Because sometimes like I did the movie in Six Underground. There's a lot of car stunt, right? So I'm just a fight coordinator, right? So why I'll be nomination. If the movie is a lot of car, then it should be the stunt coordinator. So I think that kind of idea, at the end of the day, the submission, who deserve to go on the stage, represent that movie. That would be the fair deal, because if you lock it, this is the only every
Category
time yeah.
component of
Yeah,
that
if the
field.
only
Yeah,
every
that's
time
what
it's
I'm
the
curious about. I know
coordinator,
there's so many.
right? Always only the coordinator, second unit director, and then the fight choreographer, and the rest knows. So then the stunt guy, he using his line to do the crazy jump or crazy explosion. He don't get it. So I think that really the internal is a very good idea. Is the internal when they submission, they should vote whatever or pick the own one, and they feel fair for the movie, for them, for the stunt people. So I think that when you have a nomination, either you're not going into the stage, right? It still is, the honoring, So I think that can be really the way to go. Instead, like set it up, lock it. That's the way. I think that would be much more feasible. That's my
I,
opinion. But I go back to the one, the honoring. Like I said, I think Dekiel, David Leach, Chris O'Hare, they all deserved it. Either one, give them all.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then suppose you give one for like even Conrad, Parmasano, even he passed away. I think that those people been in the stunt community, and did a lot for us. So they well deserve that.
Absolutely, absolutely. So I'm not gonna, keep you, Andy. I really do appreciate you, hopping on last minute here
Yes.
on a Sunday morning. But before I let you go, can you tell folks, some things that perhaps you're working on? Because maybe that will be something that, or going to be some things that we may see get nominated in the near future, perhaps.
Yes,
Um,
right. Yeah.
but I know a lot of times you have to be very secretive because a lot of those projects are pretty major. So are there some that you're able to share, or are you pretty hush hush on what you can talk about right now that you are working?
Yeah. I mean, the thing, first thing is, when this thing is not really like 100%, you don't want to change it, right? But I'm
Right,
saying, uh, you know, it's a good thing, for me. Like I almost like, oh, it's about the time to retire, right? But now with this, Oscar, and then now, oh, there's something, maybe I should try one, right?
right.
So then now you're working little harder, and then think little more, what will be the next one to get into it, and then we have 2 years, so hopefully the project I'm doing, and then maybe I have a chance for that, so.
I was gonna say maybe I don't want to put you on the spot, but a Shang-Chi sequel in your future, maybe that might get a nomination. But I know, no, like I said, you can't. You're pretty hush hush about some of the stuff that
Yeah,
you're
but that,
able to talk about.
yeah, yeah, but that one, like you're saying, it's still early stage. They never announced it when it's supposed to happening, and then I hope, I would, go back for that, but then also, like either way, I think it's about the time to try to think what is the next for me to maybe have a chance for the, nomination. Right? You don't need to
For
win. You
sure,
just, you just need the nomination. That's enough.
For sure.
absolutely.
All
Well,
right, before you go, I have one more
Uh-huh.
question. You
Yes.
go
probably
for it.
live in the Los Angeles area, so I have a question. You got the
Yeah.
Warriors and the Lakers in the first round of the playoffs. Who you got?
Well, you think, why would, that's a for sure the Lakers, right? Who would go
That's
pick?
right. I just wanted to make sure that you say that on the
Because I
podcast.
walk into Los Angeles, if I'm saying the wrong thing, I'm.
Yeah, you don't want to mess up your work. That's right.
I know,
Lakers,
right?
baby.
But
Well,
but
well, Andy,
either way,
Andy,
it's
go
good.
ahead.
Yeah.
Yeah, for
I was
Yeah.
gonna
sure.
say, well, Andy, thank you so much. Thank you for carving out some time in your morning on Sunday. I really do appreciate it, and look forward to what you have coming in the near future.
Yeah, thank you, have me here. Thank you for like I try. I have a chance to say it. Today is the master. The final day. It's gonna be
Yep.
good. So I'm gonna
Yep.
enjoy my Sunday and watching this tournament. The golf
Oh yeah, for
tournament.
sure.
That's a good
For
All
feeling.
right,
sure.
all
Okay.
right,
All
awesome.
Oh,
right.
all
Thanks for
right, all right.
joining us.
Yeah, thank you.
Bye.
Happy Sunday.
Happy
Bye.
All right,
Sunday. Bye
bye
bye.
bye.
Bye bye.
All right, so that is. Give you a second here. Um, so that was Andy Cheng. I want to thank Andy Cheng so much for for hopping on. I reached out to him, and like I said, I reached out to him last minute, but I wanted to be able to get his 2 cents on something that has a huge impact on what he does for a living, which is stunt work. And if you love, action films, more than likely he has had a hand in one way or another in many of those scenes. Just to give you guys just a quick idea of that, and is if we're talking about, let's see, the Rush Hour films. If anyone, well, I'll punt this over to you, Spills. If you remember Rush Hour 2, the scene where they had that person fall into the water from the
Mm-hmm.
what was it, from the yacht,
Mm-hmm.
when they were having that action sequence. That was Andy Cheng. He almost died, crazily enough, in performing that stunt, but that was him. And then, of course, I already mentioned Shang-Chi. That sequence that we have with the bus
Mm-hmm.
action sequence was choreographed by him. So,
Which is
uh,
arguably the best part of the movie.
right, right, actually one of the best action sequences that we've had in the MCU, arguably. So,
Arguably, for
so,
sure.
again, awesome to have him on, and it's a shame that we don't have the this award happening sooner. I know that they are implementing another award in the near future. As a matter of fact, next year, if memory serves, they're going to be doing achievement in casting. They're going to officially implement that into qualifications for next year's show. So for those films that are happening, let me see, that are released this year, will be eligible for that achievement in casting that's going to air next in 2026. So of course, they have to, slowly implement things. And as I said, they're still trying to iron out the rules. But as I said, long overdue. If we're considering the effort that's put in, to just as it is with any other discipline or component in the filmmaking process, and considering the time and effort and the well-being that you're putting at risk in order to be able to bring these stunts to life. Oftentimes, as talented as many of our stunt folks are, accidents do happen, and there have been instances where, like, folks have gotten hurt, and it's for the sake, because they love, that being a part of that filmmaking process and being able to add that element of that stunt to a said action sequence or scene in a given film. So long overdue. But with that out of the way, we're going to switch gears to our main topic. And as I said, our main topic is going to be dealing with what we have here with our sports cooler talk. We did have two things that went down. And as I said, both of them deal with the world of basketball. However, both of them, you can arguably say, deal with endings of one type. One being the end of a coach's journey with a franchise, as well as the ending of a team's March Madness journey. We'll begin first in the NBA, as Tuesday saw the Denver Nuggets part ways with GM Calvin Booth, and also their championship coach, Michael Malone, who you see here on the left. Malone had the fourth longest tenure of any active NBA coach, behind San Antonio's Greg Popovich, Miami's Eric Spoelstra, and Golden State's Steve Kerr. And additionally, Malone has won in his, I want to say, his 10 seasons as the Nuggets head coach. He's won 471 regular season games with the Denver Nuggets, which is 39 more than Doug Moe for the franchise's all-time coaching lead. And he also provided the franchise with its only championship. So, in lieu of Malone's departure, David Adelman will be the coach for the remainder of the season. Spills, your thoughts on GM Calvin Booth and head coach Michael Malone getting the boot?
So, ladies and gentlemen, I actually don't think that this was a good move. I think that you should have fired.
Oh, Hold on,
have
we lost you there
fired.
for a second. Sorry, go ahead.
Okay, great. Personally, I think that they should have fired the GM and not the coach. Obviously, the coach has been the winningest coach in the history of the franchise. He's the most impactful coach because he actually brought them a championship, something that most of us observers would have thought would be impossible in a city like Denver. Um, it's not in the NBA mainstay. It's probably one of a handful of cities that have won championships outside of the big cities. Um, I just think that it's interesting that they fired him, especially now, right before the playoffs.
Right, it's only a
Um,
couple of games before
it
the
was like
the
4 games before the end of the season. That didn't make sense. Maybe I understand seeing what he did in the playoffs, but to fire him in the GM just doesn't seem to make sense. They've hired the GM's hired done a lot of moves that people thought were questionable. They moved on from a lot of the pieces that helped them get to that championship. They've kept a lot of pieces from the championship, but those were pieces that I think were more on the offensive side of the ball, and they've lost a lot of their defense and their grit that made them so hard to beat in the playoffs. I just think that this was a bad move. I'm not sure where they are. Actually, now that I think of it, I think it was a great move because they out of our way, ladies and gentlemen. I was
you
there
see
for
how
a second.
quickly that happened,
I
folks. But
was
yes,
there. Did
go
you
ahead.
see that in real time? That I was like saying it was a
Wow,
bad move for the Nuggets,
wow.
sure. But I don't care about that franchise, ladies and gentlemen. I'm a Lakers fan. This is great news. They're going to be discombobulated in the playoffs if they can make the second round. Right now, I think they're the 4 seed. So we
Yeah,
wouldn't
if
see
memory
them
serves, yeah.
unless we saw them in the conference finals, which I don't think they're going to make the conference finals. Um, I don't see them anywhere. Yep, they're the 4 seed. So, well, they're the 4 seed today. They may be the 4 seed or the 5 seed, possibly. Depending on what y'all do today. Do y'all play today? You may be a three-way tie. Let's see what the games are today. Do
I
you guys
believe
play today?
so, if memory serves, because I know they need to do that kind of do that tiebreaker among those four. I want to say it's like four spots. It's like from four to eight, where it's still not determined.
Oh,
So
so you said it's 4 to 8 that is not determined, but the 3rd seed is a shoe-in. Right.
you see what he did there, folks.
The
You see
third
what he
seed
did
is
there.
guaranteed.
You
We
see what he
know who
did
the
there.
3rd seed is going to be, ladies and gentlemen.
So all jokes aside, I'll say this. As I said, he's the all-time winningest coach for the Denver Nuggets, and that's saying something because let me do a little history lesson for those of you and some of the iconic coaches that the Denver Nuggets have had. They had Larry Brown at one point as the coach of the Denver Nuggets from 1974 to 1979. And if that name sounds familiar, of course, he took the 76ers against Spillman's Lakers in the finals.
Yeah, they won one game against those Lakers in the finals,
Yeah, it
ladies
was
and
a
gentlemen.
gentleman's team.
But
I'll give you that.
he
I
did
will
come
give you
back
that.
around and
But
beat us with the Pistons.
no
He
one
came
had
back
that
around and beat us with the
Sixers. But
Pistons.
let's
I'll
be
give him
honest,
that.
no one had that Sixers team get into the finals that year, and I
For
think that
sure.
that's a testament not only to the MVP season that Iverson was having and taking, putting that team on his back, but also the coaching of Larry Brown as well. And then, of course, he would go on to win a title with the Pistons. There was an opportunity there to be able to, let's see, there was an opportunity there to be able to win a title with the Nuggets during his stint. However, he would go on to lose that title attempt against the New York Nets. And as I said, this was during his run in the 70s between 1974 and 1979. Over that stint, he would um, get to the finals, but would not win. Outside of Larry Brown, of course, another iconic coach that we had with the Denver Nuggets would be George Karl. George Karl had a run as a coach from 2004 to 2013, and this was during that era that we had with Carmelo Anthony. For me, at least in my time of following the Nuggets, he is the most recognizable face that comes to mind for me when I think of those iconic figures when it comes to this franchise. And to say out of those two coaches, those two awesome coaches, because I didn't even get into this. Larry Brown had a 65% win percentage in that span from 1974 to 1979, and George Karl additionally had a similar win percentage of 62% in that stint that we had between 2004 and 2013. And to be able to say that even out of those coaches, you are the only coach to be able to win a title with that said franchise, I'm gonna have to say, Spills, I just find it incredibly, and we've talked about this before, when we're talking about franchises, being able to honor and respect those folks that brought winning to their franchise, whether it's as a player, as a coach, whatever the case may be. I don't know, man. I just find it incredibly disrespectful to have three, not even allow the coach to be able to finish the season. Like there's still a couple of games left in the regular season, and not even allowing him to be able to close out the the regular season. Like if you're gonna have him, you're gonna pull a stunt like that. At least allow him to close out the season and see where the team can go this season, because from what I have been reading in some of the stories, they actually were talking about even doing it as early as the All-Star game, All-Star break, that they were talking about potentially doing this. But I'm like, what are we accomplishing here of waiting until now to do that? Like I said, I could even see if that is in fact true, that they were planning on doing it during the All-Star break. At least then, you're allowing your team to be able to adjust to that change in those remaining games, because that's still like what that game is in February. That still gives you, let's see, March, April. That still gives you some time in that block to be able to regather yourselves and regroup to whatever new approach or strategy that a new coach may bring to that team, even if it is the assistant coach. So it seems just like a weird thing to do. Like if it was really that bad, I feel like it should have been done earlier, so that way it gives that team that opportunity to adjust, and then it also gives the coach the opportunity to make the necessary adjustments to move on to whatever the next job opportunity. Not to say that Michael Malone is going to have any trouble getting a new coaching job.
I pray he doesn't end up in this town. We pray for Mike Malone that he
I'm just
doesn't
saying,
end
I
up
don't I don't feel
playing
like he's going to
coaching
have
here.
trouble getting his next coaching job. But I'm just saying, you don't treat the one coach that brought you the only championship that you have for your franchise and do them that way. It just seems like very tacky and dirty to me. But that's just me.
I feel like I agree with you on that, and I hate to say it, but this is how the Lakers differentiate themselves from other franchises. We do not treat bad championship coaches the way that other franchises have recently. Like this, he's like the third or fourth coach who won a championship with a franchise who ain't never won one and possibly never ever will again, who's been fired within 2 seasons of them winning the championship. Um, the coach in Milwaukee recently lost his job, and
Yeah,
then
there
they
were a whole
also
list of them. Yeah, yeah,
Toronto, like
yeah.
a bunch of franchises that if you ask me, will they ever
Your
win a
guy, let's see,
championship?
Frank, what was it, Frank Vogel?
Frank Vogel, yeah, but
No, no, no. What? No, what? What? Share, please.
Frank was okay. Frank was a good coach, but I feel like Frank just wasn't he wasn't innovative, and it was time. Unfortunately, they were not listening to Frank anymore, and also they got rid of the guys that Frank could win with. Frank is a good big man coach, and we were playing small ball, and that was not going to work for him for sure. Look at the smugness, ladies and gentlemen. They fired. The Warriors only have two championship coaches, and one of them
You
was in
see
the
how they switch?
'70s.
You try to change the
Hmm.
subject over to
That's
the
right.
Warriors real
That's
quick.
right. I went to public school. I know, you got to be on the offense, baby. You got to stick and move. Jab, 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 jab. You
But
can't
but
just let
but
people get you
I
down.
will say this. All jokes aside, it is an interesting time, which we'll dive into with the next story too. Is how the nature of the NBA, the landscape of the NBA is right now, where I feel like I remember a time, and you could probably you would agree with me as much as we are at odds about certain things. Is that normally being able to have a championship on your resume was enough of a pedigree to be able to give you some job security, even if you never won one again within your career. And I feel like now, even if you win a championship, sometimes I hate to say it, the championship can be a deterrent and can actually like work against you in terms of having job security. And we've seen, just as you said, we've seen more coaches that have recently won a championship that have lost their jobs versus those that haven't yet to win one and still have their job. So I mean, we have a rare group that have won a title, and they're still out of those folks that still are tenured coaches that still have their jobs. But we're seeing a really weird trend where I don't know if it's just the idea of when you win that championship, there's a heightened set of expectations, and when you don't, you know, reach that pinnacle of what those expectations of what you reached again, then you have to then they get you up out of there. I mean, I don't know. It's just been a really weird trend that we've been seeing recently with a lot of coaches where it seems like the one thing that you would feel would help with your resume and establishing some job security is actually the very thing that is causing a lot of folks to lose their coaching job.
Hmm.
So, um, switching gears to the other component of our sports cooler talk. We have the Florida Gators men's basketball team who secured the men's national championship in a comeback victory that went down to the wire against the Houston Cougars on Monday night. When it was all said and done, Walter Clayton Jr. Earned Most Outstanding Player honors, and head coach Todd Golden became the youngest head coach at 39 since Jim Valvano at 37 in 1983 to win a national championship. Spillman, your thoughts on the national championship game?
I thought it was a very exhilarating game. I saw they wasn't trying to let Akeem Olajuwon onto the court, which is sad.
I
How do you
know
not
that was
know?
weird.
It was very weird. That's a very tall man to be like, "Hey, big fella, you're not supposed to be out here." It's like I'm old and I'm tall. Don't you think I'm supposed to be out here? I'm old and I'm real tall. But that's just the case of history coming back to bite you. But again, last week I did say I thought that
You
Florida
did.
was going to win. I felt like the play of Florida is such that they were in a much harder conference than Houston, so I felt like because they were in a harder conference, they would be more focused in the game for the victory. Houston came very close, obviously very close. They had a blown play at the end of the game to not go over. But so many times in these college basketball games, it's what you have done in the season that makes you into the champion at the end of the year, because it's little small things like turnovers and not being ready in the final moments of the game that can be the difference between a win and a loss. And I feel like because the Gators were in a sort of a murderer's row of a conference, because I don't know who Houston plays because they're not in a very big conference. Um, but I imagine that would help them in March, where they probably took losses in January and December, where you were like, wow, how did they lose this game? Or they lost this game in a close fashion. But that helps you in the long run. How did you feel about it?
Um, it basically played out the way that I anticipated it did. I know that we were talking about it last week and talking about that idea of um, offense versus defense and how defense wins championships. And it in essence played out the way that I anticipated it would play out. Is just that we had last minute heroics, towards the end of the game that allowed the Florida Gators to pull it through. Because let's be honest, up to that point, every indication was there that we were going to have um, the Houston Cougars take that game, especially
Yeah.
considering how they defended against Clayton. If memory serves, he didn't even score in the first half. Like, they prevented him from scoring in the first half, which is unheard of to be able to say with a player of his caliber and the type of a tournament that he's been having during March Madness. That he
Hmm.
was scoreless in that first half. So um, I just feel like it's just a case of you know Houston had every opportunity to win, and they just weren't able to close the deal. So
Yep. I feel I understand that, but you look at the numbers. Florida had the better field goal percentage, even though they both were sub 40%. Florida was closer to 40 than Houston was. They had a better 3-point percentage, even though it's just a tick under. They had a better they got more rebounds, but mostly they got more defensive rebounds. So they had more chances at offense than the other team did. And then obviously they had way more free throws. They had like 7 more free throws, and that's 7 points you can't get back.
for sure,
They
for
outscored
sure,
them from the charity stripe, as we say in the business. It's by about 10 points. So it came down to the wire, but it's the totality of the game. If you can out rebound somebody, if you can get more defensive rebounds, you get more chances at the free throw line. You kind of dictate what the game is. Even though they got
yeah,
close at the
yeah,
end, and they were missing some of their main scorer, but they had more people around, so
yeah,
it's
yeah,
definitely interesting.
yeah. For sure, for sure. But I'm gonna leave it out to you guys. Feel free to let us know, in the comments, even whether you're watching it here live or after the fact. What were your thoughts on what we had at the beginning of the show? Your thoughts on the addition that we have with the Oscar category, but also, with the two sports stories that we have here. How do you feel about the Nuggets firing Michael Malone, and also the results of the national championship game? And I meant to ask you this, Spills, before we go. Considering the landscape, kind of similar to what we had with the NBA, and talking about that in that landscape, considering the current landscape with the college basketball world, do you have it over 50 or under 50 that the Gators will repeat? Because I mean, we have one and done folks. We have that whole thing happening, and then we also have what's happening with the transfer portal and players being able to earn. So, what are your thoughts on that? Do you think that the Gators will be able to survive those challenges to be able to repeat?
It's a snowball's chance, ladies and gentlemen. It's a snowball's chance. I won't finish the quote because we're trying to get advertisers, but it's a snowball's chance. Unless all those guys show back up, which would mean that like that their fabulous point guard left millions of dollars on the table. Which,
Yeah, I don't
if
see it
I was
happening.
his mama or I was him,
Go to the
I'm
draft.
not leaving millions of dollars on the
Yeah,
table.
go to the
So
draft.
you go to the draft, especially because this isn't a particularly strong draft. Maybe Cooper Flag is the pièce de resistance, but he might not go that
And
high
winning that
either.
championship is going to work in your favor.
For
Coming
sure,
into the draft and having that behind you from the just a couple of months ago is going to work in your favor.
for
So
sure.
do it
I don't think his
now.
draft stock will ever be higher,
Yeah.
unless he wanted to. He may could be the number one pick, but that's like
Nah, anything can
$3 million
happen. You
long
can get
term.
injured. Anything.
Anything can
I say
happen.
go to the
It's
draft, bro.
take the bird in the hand. Walk away from that gambling table, young man. Don't go back up
Right.
there and think you're gonna turn 13,000 into 130,000. You're not gonna do that. Take your 13,000 and say thank you, gambling table. I'm walking away. The house always wins. I think that they're even though historically I think Florida is the last back-to-back championship champion. I can't think of another one.
Sir, okay. I'll have to
It's
look
either
into that.
Florida or UConn, one of the two.
Yeah,
I think it's either
yeah,
Florida or
yeah.
UConn. But that was a different time. Also, it helped that none of the players that were on the Florida team all those years ago was a guaranteed number one draft pick. They were all kind of lottery tweeners. So, they were going to be a lottery tweener this year or next year. So it didn't really matter if they came back or not. I don't see that that's going to happen with this team. So he's a top three pick. He's a top three pick. I don't see anybody. He might go second behind Flag, but the main guard from the Florida is a top three pick. So
Later. Yeah,
you gotta
yeah.
you gotta take that kind of money. You just really. But then again, would you do that to go to the Wizards? Because he's probably going to go to the Wizards. So you know, would you do that?
I would because
It's
again,
millions of
like
dollars, Spillman.
yeah, that's the difference of seven
Millions of
figures
dollars.
versus six figures. I'm sorry,
Yeah.
I would do that. I would do that any day of the week. So that's going to wrap it up with this edition of This Week in Pop Culture. As always, I'm going to thank Spills for being a co-host this week. I'm going to punt it over to you. Can you tell folks where they can find you?
Ladies and gentlemen, call the people at Apple. You see this? I've got my thumbs up. Video ain't doing nothing. They're not letting me to do my effects. I can't even thumbs down for the sadness. This is thumbs down for you, Apple Computer Incorporated. Why did you bury this effect like setting somewhere in the settings? I can't figure out how to change it. Ladies and gentlemen, I apologize. You can find me on Truly Spill. Also, we are the 3 seed, ladies and gentlemen. We could lose tonight by 150 points, and it wouldn't even matter. We're not fighting for our playoff lives. Sure, y'all are guaranteed the 6 seed, but you might get higher. So we hope for you guys. Back to you,
Okay.
Brandon.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Again, I want to thank Spills for hopping on, and it's unfortunate over there in Lakers land that sometimes the technology doesn't work over there. I kid, of course, but uh, um, once again, you can find me at Brandon Choi ENT on X, which you see down below, and also Brandon Choi _ENT on IG. That out of the way. Thank you guys so much for watching. Be safe out there, guys, and see you soon. Peace.
Peace.